peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for finding time to joining us today. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and the show is Diaspora Dispatches. We get to bring you the latest from the continent of Africa, and we shall start our news this afternoon from Ethiopia, where 7 United Nations officials who had until Sunday to leave Ethiopia have left for their safety. The organization's spokesperson, Farah Haq, has said the officials were accused of meddling in the country's internal affairs, especially in relation to the conflict in Tigray. The UN said it was shocked by the decision. The US condemned the expulsion, saying it will not hesitate to impose sanctions against those who obstruct humanitarian assistance. Ethiopia's ambassador to the UN called for replacement of the expelled officials. The UN said earlier this month that of 466 aid lorries that entered Tigray between mid-July and mid-September, only 38 had made the return journey. The Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, which controls the northern region, have traded blame for this. The TPLF says lorry drivers are provided with only enough fuel for a one-way journey into Tigray and complain of violence and intimidation at checkpoints manned by Ethiopian federal forces. And then we go to Algeria, where French President Emmanuel Macron has said he hopes the diplomatic tension with Algeria will ease soon. President Macron said he had cordial relations with his Algerian counterpart. Algeria recalled its ambassador to Paris on Saturday and closed its airspace to French military planes a day later after the French president made comments about the northern African country. President Macron was quoted as saying the former French colony was ruled by a political military system with an official history that was based not on truth but on hatred for France. The diplomatic spat came days after France cut the number of visas it issued for citizens of Algeria and other North African countries. And then we head over to Sudan, and former suspected Islamic State-linked militants and one Sudanese soldier were killed during clashes in the capital, Khartoum. On Monday, state news agency SUNA has reported. Reuters news agency quotes State TV, and witnesses are saying the clashes happened in southern Khartoum days after a raid on what officials says was an Islamist state-linked cell in the same area. It said Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the Sudan's ruling council, visited the site of the clashes. We head over to Burkina Faso, where suspected Islamist militants have killed 14 soldiers in northern Burkina Faso. 7 other soldiers were wounded in the attack near the town of Yirgoy early on Monday. The defense ministry said a counterattack was launched that killed several insurgents. In June, at least 15 police officers were ambushed and killed in Yirgoy. Islamist militants have displaced more than 1 million people in Burkina Faso, while many more across the Sahel region of Africa live under the threat of violence. And then we head over to Mozambique, and the latest is that Mozambican President Filipe Nyusi has urged the militants operating in parts of the northern province of Cabo Delgado to turn themselves over to the authorities or face being killed. Speaking after a memorial service to mark 29 years of peace since the end of the country's civil war, Mr. Nyusi warned the militants that they have nowhere to go. President Nyusi stressed that it was not the government's intention to take reprisals. Then head over to Uganda and South Sudan, and Uganda's traveling to its neighbor. South Sudan no longer require visas to enter the country. The move reciprocates one taken by Uganda in September to scrape visa entry requirements for South Sudanese that came into effect on Friday. South Sudan's Deputy Foreign Minister Deng Dao Deng confirmed the development and said his country's decision is in line with the requirements of the East African Community, that is the EAC. South Sudan is the EAC's newest member, and its founding treaty provides for free movement of people and labor within the community. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi are the other member states. South Sudan joined the EAC in 2016, but has been slow in adopting some of the protocols, including the one establishing a common market. And then we head over to Libya, where a report from the United Nations, a first ever fact-finding mission into Libya, has concluded that violations which could amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity are being committed across the country. The report accuses all parties to the conflict there of major violations, including other countries, foreign fighters and mercenaries. Libya has been in conflict since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, and the UN-backed peace process has run into obstacles amid disagreement over voting rules. The UN report depicts a country which has suffered a decade of violent chaos. Dozens of different armed groups battling for the control of Libya have attacked schools, hospitals and homes with no regard to the lives of civilians. Migrants and refugees from sub-Saharan Africa are subjected to violent abuse that could amount to crimes against humanity, says the report. Now, the report also describes horrific conditions in secret prisons in which detainees are tortured on a daily basis. The UN investigators reviewed hundreds of documents and interviewed over 150 people in Libya, Tunisia and Italy. And then we come back to South Sudan. Our latest communal fighting in Warab State has reportedly left 35 people dead and 80 others injured. The acting state minister of information told AI radio that the fighting erupted on Sunday in Tonj East and part of Tonj North between Lukjang, Thik and Lor Paher communities. He stated that the situation was still tense while the state government is planning to deploy the organized forces in the area. He explained that the motive behind the fighting is not clear, but there have been cattle raiding and revenge attack incidents. There have been reported incidents of revenge and cattle-related attacks in the area. And then we end with Zimbabwe and Grace Mugabe, the widow of Zimbabwe's long-time former ruler, Robert Mugabe, has challenged a court order to exhume her husband's remains for reburial at a national shrine, court papers showed on Monday. Mugabe was married in his rural home village of Kutama, about 90 kilometers west of the capital, Harare, in September 2019, after weeks of wrangling over his final resting place. His family had opposed the government's plan to bury him at the National Heroes Acre in Harare, where it had started constructing a special mausoleum for him. But in May, a traditional leader fined Grace Mugabe 5 cows and 2 goats for improperly burying Mugabe and ordered his exhumation and reburial in Harare. Mugabe's children then appealed the chief's directive, but a magistrate court last month confirmed the order, saying the ex-president's children had no legal authority to challenge the exhumation of their father. Papers on Monday showed that the widow, in an appeal to the High Court, said the magistrate's order upholding the directive of the traditional chief was grossly irregular and unreasonable. And that is the latest from the continent of Africa. I don't know if the widow of the late Robert Mugabe, that is Grace Mugabe, will win this case. The elders from Kutama had decided that she needs to pay the fine, and I don't know if she paid that fine that she was asked to, because of going against perhaps the wishes of the elders to have Mugabe buried at the National Heroes Acre in the capital in Harare. And so the court upheld the decision by the elders, and because the elders wanted the body to be exhumed, and the court upheld that decision. And the children of Mugabe went to challenge this, and the court told them, no, that is not your place. And so now Grace Mugabe on Monday filed the petition to challenge the ruling of that court, and she's filed this in, she appealed that ruling at the High Court. And so, I don't think she's the most loved person in Zimbabwe, apparently, when you compare her. And, Mugabe was married before he married, Grace. He had a wife. I think her name was Sally, and Sally, people loved her so much. She was respected as a motherly figure in Zimbabwe, and she passed on. And apparently, before she passed on, there were rumors that Mugabe was, having an affair with Grace, and Grace was his secretary. And then after that, they got married after Sally died, and they never had. No, Sally was expecting, but the child passed away. And so Mugabe and Sally never had any children. But Mugabe and Grace Mugabe, they had, I think, three kids, 2 sons and a daughter, if I'm not very wrong. And that is that. So it's apparently after she got married to Mugabe that Mugabe started, I guess, changing for the worse, because now people started comparing what Mugabe was like when he was married to Sally and what he became after he got married to Grace. So Grace is not one of the people that is dearly loved and cherished there in Zimbabwe. And of course, there has been some incidences and public, incidences that also have painted her in a very bad light. Remember when she beat, a model in South Africa after I think she found that girl in one of the apartments that she had rented for one of her sons, and allegedly she beat the lady with an electric cord, and there was a case there. So she can't even go to South Africa because she has a warrant of arrest because of that incident there and many other things. So I don't know if that is the case that she will win there, but we shall be looking and seeing what is happening. So this new report by the United Nations about the current situation in Libya, I'm not really surprised because Libya does not have, as much as they do have like a transitional government, and the country is set to go to its elections in December, but we know they don't have a very structured, proper, government right now, and so there have been issues of violations of human rights. So I'm not really surprised. So now the report is out. So what next? Who will be responsible to making some of these changes or ensuring these human rights violations do not continue? But I'm not really surprised because after the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, the country was thrown into disarray and it has never recovered since then. And so there are no proper structures. There's no proper government in place, and so to each their own. So you get to do what you get to do. So it has been very difficult even holding people accountable, and it does not help that we've seen a lot of interference from other foreign countries, and we've seen Russian mercenaries there. We've seen Italy trying to safeguard its interest there. We've seen even France and Italy being embroidered in a war there in Libya. Libya used to be, or I don't know if it still is, the one that supplies Italy with most of its oil. So Italy has a lot of interest in Libya. And of course, France has also a lot of interest in Libya. And so those two countries have always on loggerheads when it comes to Libya and other countries that have a different interest there in Libya. So this has really fueled and made the situation even worse because we've seen that, the disagreements of these countries play out in Libya, and this has been on a detriment for the people of Libya and the country of Libya. So it has not worked out very well. So after this report, I don't know now who will be held accountable and what perhaps will be done after that. There are renewed clashes in South Sudan. That is also a cause of concern. I don't know until when. And now the latest report is from Warab State, where 35 people have been declared dead and 80 others injured. This is after, the recent fighting that erupted on Sunday in Tonj East and parts of Tonj North between Luakjang, Thik and Lua Paher communities. So they have been fighting, and this is between apparently cattle raiding and revenge attack incidents. So the communal fightings also continue there in South Sudan, and I'll wait to see what President Salva Kiir will have to say about this latest skirmishes. 35 people dead. That is a lot of dead people, so hopefully that is something that the government of South Sudan will address as quick as they can. All right. So the issue of Ethiopia expelling the officials from the United Nations, I think I told you this earlier on. We talked about it on Sunday. And so apparently these United Nations officials, Ethiopia is accusing them of interfering with Ethiopia's internal matters because the officials of the United Nations kept raising concern about aid not reaching the places where the aid was supposed to reach. And there has been a blockade by the Ethiopian soldiers, allegedly, and the Eritrean soldiers. And the government has been trading accusations that, no, it's not them, it is TPLF, and TPLF is saying, no, it's not. And now there has been some tracks that cannot be accounted for. That about 466 aid lorries entered Tigray between mid-July and mid-September, and only 38 had made the return journey. So 466, and over 400 trucks or lorries cannot be accounted for. They had taken in aid. So there has been some other reports that suggest that the TPLF have taken these lorries and they're using them for their activities against the government there in Tigray. And now the TPLF is coming out to say these lorries, they're only fueled for a one-way trip. So when they get there, they can't come back, and the drivers cannot fuel the trucks to bring them back. And so the accusations and counter accusations continue. So these UN officials were really vocal and really painting to the world the plight of the people of Tigray and what has been happening there. And the government of Ethiopia was not very happy, and so they said, you are interfering with our internal matters, so we are uncomfortable having you. So they were given 72 hours to leave Ethiopia. So they finally left, I think, yesterday, and they say they left because of their safety. They were worried about their safety. So the US is still threatening to impose sanctions on Ethiopia. I don't know why it has not yet. It was threatening last week. It was threatening 3 weeks ago. So it's just threats, and that's why perhaps Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed gets to get away with so much, because the US finds itself at a limbo, because Ethiopia is a very important partner when it comes to other matters in the Horn of Africa with the US. So they work together. So the relationship of Ethiopia is very important to the US, and that's why they're very slow to act and impose sanctions. If this was happening anywhere, say in Zimbabwe or other countries that the US does not have so much interest, I'm telling you, the sanctions that would have followed there would have been very dire. But they have been really just a slap on the wrist, not slap on the wrist at all, actually, for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And of course, on Monday, he was inaugurated for his second term. And after that controversial, win that he won by majority, because the opposition really did not participate in those elections. So that is that. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And this has been Diaspora Dispatches. I'll see you here tomorrow, God willing. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.